This is my iPhone 8 Plus that I bought in 2017, and I'm still using it after 7 years, and I don't intend to upgrade it anytime soon. I have my reasons. The first two are really silly. The first one is just look at the prices of the latest phones. They are really out there, and I don't want to afford them because they are very expensive. The second reason is this phone is working perfectly fine, which means the tech, the physical product, is really solid. Even after 7 years, I haven't had any software issues or any hardware issues. And I think this will still serve me well for the next 2 to 3 years easily. I understand it's slow, and it's more obvious how slow my current phone is whenever I use newer models, and I get to see the difference. But I try not to use others' phone as frequently as possible. And the third reason why I haven't upgraded it for the longest time, and I probably won't well for the next few years, is that this phone has served and will continue to serve as a reminder of my faulty perception of money and how it works, which is the crux of the matter of this discussion today. And I wanted to share my faulty perception and how I have somewhat fixed it, and share a small lesson around that through this. So what's perception of money? How do we perceive money? In order to understand that, I think let's just simply define what money is as objectively as possible. I think money is the exchange of values, meaning I give you money, you give me something valuable in return. You give me money, and in return, I give something valuable back to you. The valuable something can be a physical product or a service. And I think it's abundantly clear in a workplace setting where we work, we provide our time and skill, and in return, we get paycheck. And we use that money to, buy food or product and services that other people have worked on. So this is, again, a broad way of putting how the exchange of money and values work and how the economy run. And it's all fine. But the problem arises when the subjective perception of money and the value that we associate with certain product and services are skewed. Meaning, let's say there are two products, both do the same or similar thing, but this one advertises as saying this is much more better, long-lasting, durable than this, and it's at the same price or cheaper. Then we naturally associate our thinking with this thing being better than this thing, and we gravitate towards this. And this kind of association that happens many times consciously and or even unconsciously is natural. It's just part of our neural circuitry. For example, this book is white in color. It has a name, it has a title, it's called The Psychology of Money. But broadly speaking, I know that this book is colored white. So anytime I need to find this book in the rack or someplace, I know that this book is white. So I will check on the white books and see whether the book is the one that I'm looking for or not. Meaning I associate a book with the surrounding properties so that it's easier for me to find or relate to that information later on. This kind of association is, as I said already, it's natural. It is wired into our circuitry. So we frequently do association, sometimes consciously, and sometimes it happens unconsciously to us. Think of advertising as well. If you are paying close attention to the advertising, it's fine. You are consciously training your brain to relate something with something. For example, if you really like a product and it's cheap and if it's something that you would want, you would try to make a mental note of it and then later check it out, go and buy the product. But if it's something that you do not care, you'd be like, I don't need it, or you don't register it. But at the later point in time, when you do need it, you go through your mental notes, and when you see this, you make an immediate association saying, hey, I probably saw this somewhere, sometime, or long time ago, and this is a thing that I know or have seen advertised, so I'll probably go with this thing than this unknown thing that I have never seen before or never seen any advertisement of, because familiarity beats unfamiliarity. So I'll go and buy this one. And I think that is what happened with me and my first iPhone. I was fresh out of college. I had a job. Probably 1 year into the job, I had very little to no savings, and I think I wanted to prove or emanate my success to, I don't know, to my peers. Of course, that's not how I do the self talk, in case that wasn't widely obvious. My reasoning was more or less like my previous phone was crappy or it's not good, something trivial, and I would probably use that kind of reasoning to talk myself into buying a phone or a new phone logically. So although that is what I would say to myself and to others, I think the decision making process is more emotional, is more subconscious. It can also arise from insecurity that I had, and I just wanted to emanate my success or my feeling of well-being to others, which is, again, I wouldn't go too deep or overthink about why that is happening. It's just helpful to be aware of those kind of feelings. And again, I'm not bashing Apple or iPhone in particular. It's just that the iPhone is a very common product in today's day and age. Hopefully it is. And I'm just kidding, it is. And hopefully more people will relate to the product than some obscure other product. And like I said, it's not only limited to phones, but it also, this kind of emotional purchase behavior also expands into other territories or other fields in our life. For example, the place where we want to live, the cars that we buy, the vacations that we take, the restaurants that we go to, all those little to big decisions, they are driven by our subconscious or by conscious mind. And we need to be aware of the fact that when you're making a decision, are you making it logically, rationally, or are you doing it from a point of emotion? And I'm not saying all emotions are good or bad. It's just that you need to be aware of the fact that you're doing for some particular reason. And more often than not, we like to call ourselves logical person or reasonable person. So we we make rational points to our argument about why we need a new product or a new service. That happens very commonly. And we need to reflect on our habits. There's a quote from Alan Watts that goes something like, the Zen that you find at the mountaintop is the Zen that you bring along. And I really like that. We have this sense that if we buy a product or a service, it will make us happy. It will fulfill all our desires. It will solve all the problems that we have with something. We try to do that association. But as soon as we buy the product, or after buying it, a few days or weeks or months after that, it fades away. The happiness or the satisfaction that was tied to the product was fleeting, and it just gets lost in the ether after some time, which means you either have to continue buying new things to keep being happy, or you need to find that happiness within you. So you might ask, how did I come to this point where I'm reflecting on these things? What I do is every year or so, I try to run my Excel sheet of my finances, of how much money came in this year and from what sources, and where did my big expenses go, what's the balance that I'm sitting at. And for the past few years or so, after doing that, I talk to myself in third person. I say, Keshav, you are fucked. And anytime someone talks to themselves in third person, it's not good. So like any sane person in this world, I went out and got several books on money and finances. And I think the psychology of money does really live up to its hype that you have seen online. And let me just paraphrase a few things that I find highly relatable to this context. Doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. And behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. Financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. I call this soft skill the psychology of money. So, pretty typical. Here I thought I was a smart engineer doing his jobs and taking strides in his career and in life. But after looking back at my finances, it doesn't seem so great. The numbers don't lie, and the numbers are not matching up to my smartness. And after reading this book, it's widely obvious that it's something that you need to really understand. You really have to understand how money works and develop that thinking early on, so that you are aware of the decisions, so that the financial decisions that you make, they're grounded, or they are based in certain expectations or certain realities, or are logical to the extent that they can be. Or even if you are making an emotional decision, you are aware of it. It's better to be aware of the fact that whether the decision that you're making is emotional or not, rather than finding it 7 years later in hindsight. Actually, 5 years. I'm not that shitty. And since this book has been heavily summarized in many shapes and form, I would spare you the summary and only borrow one chapter in the mix, which is the very first chapter and goes by the title of No One's Crazy. In the first chapter, the author defends every person's decision-making process. And he tells us that no one is crazy, which is fine in the first look, but when you look deeply, it's not what he means. I mean, it's open to interpretation, I think. He says that we all make decisions based on our own unique experiences that seem to make sense to us in a given moment, which means whether you buy lottery tickets in a hope of getting a lottery, whether you choose to invest in a stock market or find it very risky, whatever you do, all your decisions that you do at any given moment in time is solely based on your own experiences. And remember, experiences are subjective. And to you at that time, it looks rational. You think it's the best judgment that you're making. Hence, no one is crazy. Everyone is trying to think as rationally as possible. But we need to be aware of the fact that our experiences can be very, very, very subjective. So that's the whole deal with this video and this discussion. I hope you find it insightful. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Keshav. I'm a software engineer by trade, and I've been delving into building businesses in the last few years. And as you can expect, it has not gone straight up. It's a very zigzag process. And what I'm trying to do on the side with this channel is firstly learn about stuff around building businesses, understanding tech, understanding humanity, what humanity needs, and understanding values, what people value and are ready to pay money for it. And, I'm just going into the nitty-gritty details of human psychology, philosophy, things like that, and trying to understand things from a clear and different perspective and make my own thought around these things, and also build the businesses or the products that I aim to do so that they are financially viable products and businesses. And in that process, I do, document and write my own notes. And my simple thinking is maybe someone else who is in the same boat or who will probably do similar things, they will find it valuable. Of course, you can hear advices from much, much more successful people, but sometimes it's really hard to relate to successful people because there's a differentiator that they are already successful and they can have a little bit of hindsight bias. Not all. I'm not saying everyone is full of shit. It's just, I think what I'm trying to tell is that when the advice comes from an unsuccessful person, it's not any less. It's still rooted in that person's experience. And mind you, experiences can be subjective. But hopefully, I'm trying to be reasonable and objective over here. And yeah, I want to document my process, my journey. And hopefully when I make it big, I can always tell others that I did it from the start. It was not overnight. So yeah, that's my thought on the whole why you should not upgrade your phone, why no one is crazy, how wrong association of things can lead you astray, and we need to be mindful of our purchasing decisions. That's all. So Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.